Alright, today we're going to do a 60,000 mile maintenance service on our 2021 Honda Ridgeline RTLE with all-wheel drive. Just make sure, if you're wondering, that you have, this vehicle has the 9-speed ZF transmission. Some of the older ones will have the 6-speed transmission, and that's what our 2019 Honda Pilot has. So if you're doing a transmission fluid change and you have the 6-speed on an older model, then check out my Pilot playlist and you'll see how to do that. So what we have in store, I say it's a 60,000 mile service. This is a service I would do every 30,000 miles. So 30, 60, 90, 120. And so what that is the oil and filter, of course, the tire rotation, gonna do the cabin air filter, the engine air filter. But every 30,000 miles we do the automatic transmission fluid, we do the transfer case fluid, and then we do the rear differential fluid. So we will be doing all that, showing you the jack points and everything. So as we're making this video today, we're going to video everything in the order that I need to do it, and then what I'll do is I'll edit this longer video to make shorter videos of certain tasks in case somebody's just looking for one thing. So another thing you can do is look in the video description, and I'll put an index in there showing you at what time in the video I'm doing certain things. But in this longer video, keep in mind that I'll be doing parts of some jobs and then having to go to another job and come back to it, just in the order of how we do things. So you'll see that as the video goes on. So let me show you, want to iterate, look in the video description, because you're going to find all the parts that I use, all the tools that I use, torque specs, crush washer sizes, almost everything that you need to know is going to be in there. So if you watch the video and read the video description, you can do this yourself. Let me show you what I have set out for this job. Again, you don't need to take notes of this while you're watching because it's in the video description. Transmission. This ZF 9-speed takes Honda ATF type 3.1. Okay, it takes 3.7 quarts. So I do not use the check bolt and go through all that. It's not necessary. If I drain out everything that comes out and I put in 3.7 quarts, that's what the owner's manual says. That's how I do it. If you want to use that check bolt method, you're welcome to, but my car is going to be jacked up level, and I already know it takes 3.7 quarts. Now, this stuff is a little pricey. It's just over $30 a quart. Check your prices if you're trying to get price gouged. I went to our local Honda dealer. They tried to charge me $45 a quart. I said, no way. Went outside, called another Honda dealer down the road, like $31 or something a quart. So I'm like, I will be there to buy my 4 quarts. So I have 0.3 quarts left over from my last change, and then I've got 4 new ones. So you're going to need to buy 4 quarts for that. It takes 3.7. I have a 8mm Allen hex bolt. So I bought this one at Harbor Freight, but you can get them off of Amazon, and I'll try to put links to everything. But this is kind of what the set looks like. It's a hex bit socket set, and it's an 8mm, fits on a 3/8 socket. That's what this 9-speed ZF transmission fluid, that's what it takes to take the fill bolt off the top and the drain bolt off the bottom. You can buy aftermarket fluids for the transmission and save a lot of money if you want to do the Valvoline Max Life full synthetic. It's like less than 30 bucks for a whole gallon. So instead of paying $120 for fluid, plus probably more than that, probably more like $135 at a Honda dealer, by the time you get tax in there, and it's a little over $30 a quart, you can buy a gallon of the Valvoline for less than 1 quart of the Honda fluid. That's your call. I'm choosing to stay with the Honda fluid because the transmission fluid's very valuable. I plan to keep this vehicle a long time, and just because an aftermarket fluid is compatible does not mean it's the same. So I'm going to stick with the Honda fluid. The transfer case assembly takes this hypoid gear oil. The hypoid gear oil, you could buy any oil that fit this 75W-85. I need my glasses. 75W-85 GO5, but I choose to stick with the Honda. This takes less than a half quart, so if you buy 1 quart, it's going to do 2 of these jobs. The dual pump fluid too. This is for the rear differential fluid. The owner's manual says 1.92 quarts. So what you could do is just buy 2 quarts, put them in, and be done with it, and you'd be safe. I've done that many times. The problem is when you transfer fluid from this bottle into your rear differential, you're going to have a little bit of fluid loss because you got to use I'll be using this Mighty Vac syringe. So you can use a pump bottle or whatever you want, but I find that this saves me a lot of time. So I'll be getting that fluid in here, and I'll be putting it in with this. And so you're welcome to just buy 2 quarts and say that you're good, but I decided I do this all the time on this and my Pilot, so I just bought 3 quarts this time so that I could add it until it actually comes out the fill bolt and know that I have the right amount. So I decided to purchase the extra bottle, figuring that it would last several rear diff changes. So then the oil, I'll be using the Pennzoil Ultra Platinum Full Synthetic 0W20. Be using a Purolator Boss oil filter. I've got 17mm sockets for those. These, the transfer case and the rear diff, the bolt on those is just the square end of a 3/8 inch ratchet. So that's what we use for that. I got a 1/2 inch torque wrench, a 3/8 torque wrench. The 1/2 inch is for the wheel lug nuts. The 3/8 inch will be for the oil, for everything. Transmission, transfer case, rear diff will take a 3/8. You're going to need a socket set, something like this, special for wheels. This takes a 21mm, so you've got a tool like that. You've got all these different sizes. You put that tool in there, and then you put this on your wrench, and you can loosen your lug nuts. We now have this Milwaukee stubby impact driver that we're going to be utilizing to take the wheels off. So we're going to jack it up without loosening them and start using this instead of breaking them free when they're on the ground. So you will need a 3/8 inch ratchet. Some of these bolts are torqued down a lot, and you're going to need, like this is an extendable ratchet. Again, I'll have links to all this. You may need a little pipe or a breaker bar. Some of these are really on there good. So for example, breaker bar, you know, the problem is a 1/2 inch breaker bar, this one's really long, you can get a lot of torque on that. This is a 3/8 inch breaker bar, it's pretty small. So if I had to use that, I'd want to grab this pipe and put on the end so I could get a little more. Some of those rear diff and things can be super tight. I might experiment today and see if I can use a 3/8 inch extension on this and see if I can use that to break some of those free. So that's a new tool. I've only used it a couple of times, so I'm still kind of experimenting with that. I'm also going to recommend, if you do a lot of maintenance, I've found that I use this Milwaukee 3/8 inch right angle ratchet a lot. So you'll find that when I do fluids, you can just use any 3/8 inch ratchet to take your bolts off. Problem is you're right there by the fluid coming out, and it can get all over your hand and stuff. And so what I find is that once I get the bolt broke free, I can use an extension on this, keep my hand this far away, and take it off that way. So anyway, these are some things. This is the cabin air filter, this is the engine air filter. All these parts will be in the description. I use these pictures all the time. They have measurements for quarts, tenths of a quart, and that's what I'll be using to measure and add fluids. I've got a socket extension set. This has all extension sizes. I'll need extensions for the transmission fill bolt. I'll need extensions for some of the underneath parts to get to those. So this is always a good thing to have in your toolbox. Of course, a headlight I wear all the time. Another light I'll be using so you can get good views of things. So really the only specialty tool you need that you may not have is this Allen hex part for the transmission. And what I tried, I've got this magnetizer, demagnetizer. I take it and I kind of magnetize that, so hopefully I can get that bolt to stick to it when we take off that transmission fill bolt, because you'll see I'm coming in from the top. So I got this Glide press and seal. I use that during the oil change to protect my crossbar. These gloves, I'll put links in the description. I love these mechanics gloves. These are just a good overall work glove, but there's no extra padding on like the knuckles. So I've got this other set if I'm doing something that involves me trying to break something free, like with a breaker bar or a pipe, or I'm really bearing down on something trying to get it broke free. I'll put those on so that when my hand breaks free, I don't bust my knuckles in my hand and things like that. So when we get started, I'll be putting 3 sets of these gloves on my hands to get started, and as they get dirty with oil, I'll peel them off. So we're gonna get started on this job. Alright, we're going to change our cabin air filter. I'll put links to this in the video description. So I've already emptied out my glove compartment. We're just going to open it up. And what you're going to do is press on these 2 sides right here. Press in, and this gets these clips. You see how it's broken right there, and it allows that to relax. And then down here, this is where our air filter is. So let me get you a good look at that. So you see these tabs right here and right here. So I'm just going to grab those, push in, and this drawer pulls out, okay? Just like that. Now notice right here, it says airflow with a down arrow, so that's important. So I'm going to take this out. It's been 15,000 miles. It's not that dirty, but I'm going to change it. I'm going to throw the old one on the floor. I'm going to take my new one. I've already, for camera purposes, taken the plastic off of it, so I don't have to do that on camera. This will be wrapped in plastic when you remove it. And you'll see that there's an airflow down. So I just want to take this, set it in here like this. It does have a direction. It's not exactly a square, so it goes in there nicely. And then airflow down, airflow down. Get my pleat to set in there nice. Okay, so now I just make sure that's going back in the hole. Just level it out, just kind of slide it in. You'll hear it click. So that clicked back in. Now we're just gonna squeeze the glove compartment again right here, and it catches. So that's it. That's how you change your cabin air filter and save you a lot of money. Alright, now we're going to change our engine air filter. I'll put links to this in the description. This is our new filter. So this is our air filter box right here. You do not need any tools for this. There's 3 clips. There's one there. You just push down and pull out like that. And then there's one back here. You'll see it right down here. So that's it. So now this air box is unclipped. So I'm gonna pull it up this way, and then I'm going to pull it towards me this way, and then you'll see it releases. So I can reach in there and grab this old filter, pull it out. Now this is not symmetric, even though it looks like it is. We'll see the way these black plastic parts look on this end, and then on the back side they look a little different. You see how this is on this side but not on that side? So that's important. So when I grab my new one, I'm just going to look at it and say, okay, it needs to be like this. This is going to be the orientation of my new filter. So now, before I put that in, I just want to look, make sure that my box is clean. I see a little bit of a bug or something in there. If it's dirty, you can vacuum it out, but that's clean. The reason I said to lift and pull toward me, if you can see back here, you see these little rectangle holes right there, and there's these protruding fingers that stick out on the back, and these have to go in there. So when you first try to lift the box up, it's still in there, so you have to kind of pull it towards you to get it freed up like we have it now. So while it's up, I want to take my new filter, I want to place it in there. Then I want to put those fingers back in on my way down. So I'm going to get over here so I can see what I'm doing. See, I'm looking right here, and I want to make sure that they're in those holes. See, I saw them go in. So see, now that lines me up easily with these clips. So you can just kind of grab those. Might want some gloves on so you don't pinch yourself. So those 3 clips are on, and this job is done. Saves a lot of money doing it yourself. Alright, so every time I'm doing this service, I go ahead and fill up the windshield washer reservoir. I use these yellow caps because it avoids having to get a funnel out and clean the funnel every time you want to fill your washer fluid. So the cap just screws on, and then this is like a built-in funnel. So if it's tightened down this way, it's closed, and if it's open, it's going to allow flow. So what you do is I did this off camera, but you would take your bottle with it closed, and you would tip it upside down into your reservoir, and then you would loosen the cap, let the fluid out, and then when it got to the right spot, you tighten it back up, and then you might get a couple drips here and there, but for the most part, it's a really clean way to do that. So just want to point that out. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do while the vehicle's on the ground is I'm going to loosen the transmission fill bolt. So on all these fluid jobs, transmission, transfer case, rear differential, we're going to want to loosen the fill bolt before we loosen the drain bolt, in case something happens where you can't loosen your fill bolt for some reason. At least you didn't drain all your fluid out of your vehicle and you can still drive it. So I pointed out in the tools preview that this is a socket extension. These are all 3/8 inch extensions. I've got 3 of them on here. This is a 9 inch, this is a 6 inch, this is a 3 inch. So I have 18 inches of socket extension on there. The reason I put them on shortest to longest is in case one of these connectors comes apart on me, I can reach down in the engine bay and grab it easier because it's longer. So on the end of this, I have my 8-inch hex socket, and I've used my magnetizer as an experiment because I'm hoping that that helps it hang on to the fill bolt, helps me get it out of there. So let's go. So some people like to take all this plastic shrouding off and move the air box and all that to get to this, but it is not necessary. So the fill bolt is right there and open, right there. So we're looking at it. Right there's your fill bolt. So let me get this on there, and then maybe you can get it on video. Okay, so now I'm going to get a shot of that. You can get it from wherever direction is best. So that's what you're looking for. That's your transmission. That's your fill bolt right there. So it's very easy to get to. It's wide open. And you can see that even if your ratchet won't give you clearance over this, I've got all this ratcheting space that I can utilize. So I'm just going to break that. I'm going to use my extendable ratchet to get more torque. And that should have broke it free. And it did. And I don't even need the ratchet part anymore. I'm just going to loosen it by hand. Okay, now that must not be made out of a magnetic material because it didn't grab onto it, but it's to where you might need a little step stool. These are higher up than you would think to reach down in the engine bay. I can reach down and grab it, and that's what I'll do to start it when I put it back in. So, important thing about these transmission bolts. So there's one of these on the top called the fill bolt, one of these on the bottom called the drain bolt, and one on the side called the check bolt if you wanted to use it to check the level. Let me wipe this off before I tell you about it. Got transmission fluid on it. So these are unique in a lot of ways, that they use an 8mm hex. That's unique. That the drain bolt does not have a magnet on it. That's unique for a transmission. And that they do not have a crush washer. So those are all kind of unique things. So what they do have is a built-in gasket material. Okay, that greenish color. Now, some manuals will say you're supposed to replace these every time you loosen them, but they're like 30 bucks a piece, and the Honda dealers I've spoke to said they never replace them. And so you'll know they're working if you have no leaks. So if I ever do this service and like I get under the car, and the most likely place to have the leak is going to be on the drain bolt. It could be on the check bolt, but most likely on the drain bolt. If I get under there to do my transmission drain and I see that it's leaked, then I'll replace it. But if it's not leaking, why would I replace a $30 bolt that's probably going to last hundreds of thousands of miles and probably never need to be replaced? So anyway, that's what they look like, and that's why there are no crush washers for the transmission. So we're just going to set this aside until we get to that part of the job to refill that fluid. I've also, while the vehicle's on the ground, I've reached down here and I've loosened my oil cap so that it's easy to get to when it's jacked up, and I've released this dipstick so that oil will flow when I get to my oil change. So if you do not have an impact gun, you're going to want to loosen your wheel lug nuts now while the vehicle's on the ground before you jack it up, so your wheels don't spin when you're trying to loosen them and you get frustrated. If your car has a key from Honda or wherever you'd buy it, I would always recommend going through your dealership to buy your locking key. But this is usually in a bag like this. I keep mine in the glove compartment. You can keep it wherever you want. And then it's for this looking lug nut. If you have a locking wheel lug nut, it's going to look like that instead of flat. It's going to look like that. So that's what you use to get those off, is you just rotate it until, it can be frustrating sometimes, until you feel it. There it is. So see, it locks in there. And so then that's what you put your ratchet on, your 21mm socket, to loosen those up. So since we have bought the Milwaukee stubby, we're going to be using that after it's lifted up. So what I'm going to do now is show you the jack points. Alright, so we're showing you the front jack point. Here's the Honda logo right in the middle of the front, and this is super easy to find. You can tell right here on this first crossbar right here that there's this reinforced area right here, and so I'm going to want my jack pad to be in the middle of that. So I'm just gonna put it up there like that. That is my front jack point. Okay, so now that we have our front jack in place on the front jack point, I'm gonna put these wheel chocks on the back wheels, and the emergency brake is also set. So I'm gonna put these wheel chocks back here so that as I lift up the front, the truck doesn't roll backward. Whenever you have your jacks in place, your floor jacks, you want to be careful walking around the vehicle that you don't trip over those. We also have our Touring 3-ton jack stands in place, approximately where they will go. I make notes so I don't have to figure this out every time. So I made a note to get this vehicle level. I need to jack up the front till I get 4 teeth showing on this Touring 3-ton jack stand, and I need to jack the back up till I get 5 teeth showing, and that is what I need to get all the tires off the ground where I won't have trouble putting the wheels back on. So by 4 teeth showing, I mean that. 1, 2, 3, 4 on the front. So on the back tires, it'd be like that, 5. So that's what I mean by 4 and 5 teeth. So I'm gonna go ahead and start doing the front. I recommend these 3-ton Daytona jacks at Harbor Freight. You can get good deals with their coupons. And I recommend, if you're going to do jobs like this, that you need 2 floor jacks, not 1. Because I want, when I'm done jacking it up, I want a floor jack on the front and the back, plus the 4 jack stands for my safety. In case anything would fail, I've got a safety holding it up. Alright, so I'm going to see if that's far enough. That should be close. So because I have these running boards on, you know, I got to look under a little bit more to see my jack point, or my jack stand support. But on this vehicle and on the Pilot, I'm very pleased with how these aren't just some cheap pinch weld. They're an actual steel jack point that's going to hold up over time. So I'm not even close. I'm only getting 1 tooth on my jack stand. So I'm going to have to go up quite a bit more. And this is why I write it down, because you don't want to do this, put your jack stand in place, and then you go to do the back of your vehicle and you realize the front's not high enough anymore. Because when I jack the back up, the front's going to come down a lot. So that's why you're seeing it look like it's so high off the ground. It's not going to be that way when we're done. So that's the geometry of doing the back. It brings the front down quite a bit. So now I got plenty of room. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So I'm gonna bring that down. After I get my, so you can see that steel piece that I'm using right there to support that. Now you might from there be able to video this other side from right where you're at. Probably get a good view of it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, so I got my 4 teeth on here. I'm going to slide it under here. This is my support. Never put your fingers in between that support and your jack stand. Okay. So now I'm going to lower this floor jack by rotating this handle counterclockwise slowly. And when you rotate this handle counterclockwise, it relaxes the jack, the floor jack, and lets it down slowly. Now it's resting on the jack stand. And because when I jack the back up, the front is going to come down, I'm going to relax this floor jack a lot. And then once I get the back, I'll come back and I'll adjust it again. But for now, I need to let it down a lot, or else when I jack the back up, it'll start hitting that pad. And I want this supporting the weight of the vehicle. I'm not under there, so I don't need the added safety for this short time period it takes me to jack up the vehicle. Just don't let anybody get under there. So now, let's look at the back here. So you can tell, like, here's the center of the back, here's your storage compartment that's in your truck bed. That's awesome on these Ridgelines. Then you can see where the jack pad is. That's where our jack point is, our rear jack point right there, right in the center of that first cross member. Just as easy to find as the front one was. So now that I'm on there and I got some tension, now I can start jacking it up. So remember, on the back, I'm going to want 5 teeth showing on my torn 3-ton jack stands. Okay, I'm just going to check and see how close I am. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's my goal. Let's find out where I'm at. Okay, so I'm hitting right there. So what I need to do is just angle this, get it under the truck. Now on the Ridgeline, these rear jack points are right here. So this is your back door. You're inside of your back door a little bit. So right under here, you're gonna find those same nice steel points that we are up with about a 1/2 inch to spare. So 1/4 inch to spare. So we're in good shape over here. I'm gonna get this ready to receive that when it comes down. And I'm going to go do the same with the other side. Make sure every now and then one side will fit and the other side won't. You'll have to do it another 1 or 2 pumps on the floor jack. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Tilt it, get it under the truck. This is my steel point. Get it under there, plenty of room. Nice and level garage surface, which is good. So now then, I just release my floor jack, turn the handle counterclockwise. Okay. And now the weight is on the jack stands, and now that the vehicle is on all 4 jack stands, I'm going to tighten my handle clockwise and once again line my jack pad up with the rear jack point, and I'm going to jack it up till there's a little tension on it. So it's touching, and then just a little bit more so that it's not going to move on me. So the rear of the vehicle, I'm just going to one more time look under here. And I'll look at all 4 of these now that the weight is on there. And I can tell that I'm in a good spot. on those back ones, and that I'm in a good spot on my front one. Sometimes you have to go over and look, but I can see that one. Okay, so now the only thing I have remaining is that normally what I would do if I was doing this oil change and tire rotation is I would jack this one back up to the jack point. But this is the challenge with safety, and why you always have to be thinking about it, is this front jack point was great to get it up on the jack stands, but now that I have work to do, this massive floor jack is in my way. I can't do it all with this thing right here. So what I'm going to do is remove this, and there's a couple of things you can do. So on this vehicle, I need to look for another spot just to use as a backup. And so one of the spots that I like is this is the tow hook right here. This is the front tow hook. So that's going to be stable enough to support the vehicle. So I'm going to move my jack over here on the side, and I'm going to touch the jack pad to there, so that that's going to be an added safety, because I need to be up in there to get to my transmission, to get to my transfer case. I could reach the oil with it on the jack point, but not the transmission and the transfer case, because they're right where would be right in the way. So I'm just going to relocate this. I'll turn my, I think my light can stay on, I just won't look at the camera. But basically for safety, just, you know, I'll put this back when we go to let the vehicle down off the jack stands. I'll start using the jack point again. So that jack pad is hitting this metal bar that makes up that tow hook, so we're good. So I got a little bit of tension on the jack, and that's all I need. And then on this side, so my concern with that over there is what happens if that jack fails. I don't really want to trust that other jack way over there. That's going to protect me if that jack stand fails. So you might come up with something. What I have that I bought because my daughter's Elantra has non-existent jack point is I invested in a couple of these smaller floor jacks that I would never really recommend buying if it weren't for that one job. I would stick with these 3-ton. But I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to find something over here that maybe I can use that as a backup. You could use additional jack stands or something in certain spots if you didn't have extra floor jacks, but you definitely want to put things under there. So another thing, when you rotate the tires, you can use the wheel on its side under the vehicle. The problem with that is, you know, you could still get crushed because the wheel isn't that tall. So that, to me, it's an added safety to keep the car from going all the way down if the wheels are off. But I would feel better about having something catch it where I'm not going to get trapped under there. It's also good to not do this stuff alone, where you have someone else with you if something would happen. My wife is running a video camera, so even though she doesn't typically operate floor jacks, I've taught her how they work. So if something happened to me, she would know how to do the handle, how to loosen it, how to tighten it, and how to pump it up so that she could get the vehicle up if I needed it. So always make sure you teach somebody how to do it, and take care of your safety. So now that we have the vehicle safely on jack stands and have our front work area ready. I'm going to do that. At the point in which I get to the rear differential, you'll find that I need to do the same thing back there, because that floor jack in the back is directly in the way of the rear differential. And so what I'll do then at that point is I'll put this floor jack back in the center when we're done in the front. That'll free up this extra jack, and I'll use it in the back with the other one and find similar spots back there. So we're going to do the transmission fluid first, and so let's get started with that. Alright, so we had taken our fill bolt to our transmission fluid off when the vehicle was on the ground. So now we have our vehicle safely on jack stands and floor jacks. We have some plastic sheeting under the car. I have this catch basin to catch my fluid in. I have a Lyle spill-free absorbent pad there to kind of, when the fluid hits it, it keeps it from deflecting off and making a mess. I'm not concerned with measuring what comes out, because I already know it takes 3.7 quarts, so I do not need to measure that. My drain bolt is going to be the 8mm hex socket that we use to take the fill bolt off at the top. It's the same on the bottom. You can use a 3/8 inch ratchet, preferably an extendable ratchet, something with some torque on it. I'm going to experiment by using the stubby impact gun to just see how it works, breaking free these things that are torqued. This will be the first time I tried using it for that purpose. So I have a 3-inch extension and a 3/8 inch, the 8mm Allen. I may not need the extension, but I have it. When I'm done, I'm going to torque the drain bolt back down to 26 foot-pounds. So I already have my 3/8 inch torque wrench set for that. Remember, there's no crush washer on this. Once I get it broke free, I don't want my fluid getting on my impact gun, so I have this ready so I can get out to the side and get away from the fluid. You don't need either one of these to do this job. You can do it with a regular 3/8 inch ratchet. These are jobs I do all the time, so I've invested in them over time. Try to make things easier and cleaner as I figure things out. I'm going to have some rags available. Come down here and I'll show you what we're dealing with. I'm going to grab a permanent Sharpie marker, and I wrote on here when I did this service at 30,000 miles. I wrote on things under there. I'm curious to see if they've worn away. I wrote like the ATF for automatic transmission fluid, the transfer case, and I'm curious to see if my markings are still there, just to identify them easily. So I'm going to come underneath here now, kind of keep my pan out of my way until I need it, but it's there. I have a rag available if I need it. Okay, so coming under the vehicle, what are we looking at here? So just for reference, this is my engine oil right here, and this, yeah, I see my marker. So this right here is my automatic transmission fluid drain. I can see my faded drain marks there, or my marker. So ATF drain right here, that's the 8mm. And then later, when we do our transfer case, directly behind that is this. This is your transfer case. This is the fill bolt and the check bolt in one at the side of it, and this is the drain bolt in the bottom. So we'll be doing that next, but right now our focus is right here on this ATF drain bolt. So before I do it, I'm going to redo my marker. Alright, so now this will be interesting. My first time trying this with the stubby impact gun, seeing how it might be helpful or may not be. Instead of using a knuckle buster torque wrench, just wondering if it'll break that free. Oh my, yes. So before it starts to spill, I'm going to put that back. Get that under there. That's awesome. This little thing packs a punch when it comes to torque. Those little M12s are rated for 550 pound-feet of torque. That is crazy. So I want to make sure, so now I use this to get me out of the way right here. So I get this on there. I'm going to get that. It's going to come straight down. And then I get out of the way. I don't get filthy. And then while that's draining, I just grab a rag. Whoop. Dropped it. It's going to be easy to find in that pan. Okay, so our automatic transmission fluid is barely dripping. We just let it do that for like 3 or 4 minutes. Got rid of the steady, slow stream and got it down to barely a drip. And even though this is going to get wet again, I just wipe it down, just so we know it's a clean surface, even though it's going to get more fluid on it right now. So I just kind of wipe that, and then I take my drain bolt that I've already cleaned, and I just by hand start to tighten it. I tighten it by hand so I know I'm not cross-threading all the way till it contacts the base, and that will stop your dripping completely. I already have my torque wrench, 3/8 inch torque wrench set to 26 foot-pounds, and I have my 8mm hex on there, and I'm done with this, so I can move that out of the way. Get myself a little more room. When you're upside down, you always have to think what's clockwise, so make sure you're going in the right direction. So 26 foot-pounds, do it till I hear a click. Alright, that's it. So that is secure. So now I can go back up top and put in 3.7 quarts of transmission fluid, and then I can put that bolt back on as well. Alright, so we're getting ready to add our automatic transmission fluid. It takes 3.7 quarts. So I took all my quarts, poured them into here. I got my markers here. These are full quarts. These half markers are half quarts. So I'm up to 3.5, 3.7. If you can kind of get the camera close to that, you can tell it's a weird green color. So when it drains, it's going to look blackish green. But when it's clean, this is what it looks like. So I'm doing all these jobs at once, and then I'm going to make smaller videos. So sometimes I have to do things a little different because I think about the video editing. So normally, while the vehicle's up, you could do all your draining of fluids and put all your drain bolts back on, like your transmission, oil. Then you could lower your vehicle back on the ground after your tire rotation and everything. Then you could fill all your fluids. But because I want these to make sense to people that are just trying to comprehend one job, I'm using these step stools so I can go ahead and fill the fluid before I move on to the next job, mainly for your benefit. So I'm going to step on up here. Alright. So remember we showed you this shot on the ground. This is where the transmission fill bolt goes. This funnel is awesome. This is a flexible steel funnel for transmissions. It's got a tab here for your fingers. So I can just snake this thing right down in there. Give me a very strong connection right there. And then I can get this funnel right here, so that when I fill it, I got my fluids in one hand and I got my thumb on this, and I can keep an eye on that and make sure it's not going anywhere. So that's the other reason I like the pictures, is I don't have to redo this every quart, right? And then make sure I'm okay. So I'm gonna go get my fluid. I already know I have the right amount. All this goes in. So I'm gonna again verify that my funnel's in there, got a firm hold on it, and I just start pouring. And I pour slowly, because when you put that funnel in, you can kind of tell it's hitting up against, so I don't want to pour too fast and not give that fluid time to disperse. So I got my eye on both where I'm pouring and also where it's going into the transmission, making sure I don't have any spilling. If it spills at all, I can stop pouring immediately. So the only reason that would happen is if you poured too fast or your funnel separated from your transmission. And that's, again, this funnel, even though it's made out of high quality steel, it's not expensive. So check the links in the video description for all these parts. The transmission fluid really is an easy job, as you're seeing. This top fill bolt was easy to remove. It's going to be easy to put back. The bottom drain bolt's easy to find, easy to remove, easy to put back. You can save yourself hundreds of dollars by doing this job yourself. Hundreds. And you don't need to overcomplicate things with the check bolt on the side, knowing it takes 3.7 quarts. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, for cleanliness, use a rag. Let me get this picture where I can set it down without it spilling. Get my rag. When I pull this funnel out, I give it, you know, several seconds to empty out, but it's a viscous fluid, it's gonna keep dripping. So I'm gonna get my rag as close to the bottom as I can. When I pull it out, I can get it all the way down there, and I'm just gonna get the bottom of this funnel with the rag, hold it over my pitcher, get my pitcher and my funnel into my tool room. I'm ready to put my bolt back on. So this is probably the hardest part of this, is just reaching my hand down there and getting that started. So we literally didn't spill a drop down there. It's dry as can be. So I'm gonna use I'm right-handed, but because of the way this is set, I need to use my left hand to come down here. And I'm there, just trying to get it straight so I can, yep, got it. So while I'm down there, I just thread it by hand all the way till it contacts the base. That'll prevent me from having to take the step with the ratchet, because I already got it hand tight, so I'm already ready for my torque wrench. So even though I got my ratchet out, I'm not going to need it. I'm going to go right to my torque wrench. Same torque as the bottom, 26 foot-pounds. So, whoop, drop my rag. Alright, so I'll put that on there. Gonna get my 8mm hex. Rotate till it's locked in, like now. Make sure I'm going clockwise. There we go. See how easy that was? If you have the right tools to reach that, you got that element. I'll put links to the 8mm socket on Amazon. This set with the extensions. So remember, we got a 9-inch, a 6-inch, and a 3-inch. So total of 18-inch extension on a 3/8. With that on the end, works easy. So the transmission fluid is done. For those that are worried about starting it up, putting it in gear, moving it through the gears, doing it this way, that's not necessary. You already have the right amount of fluid in there. As you drive it, it's going to do what it needs to do. That's a method that's only necessary when you're using a check bolt and you're waiting for the fluid to spill out. We already know it takes 3.7 quarts, so that would be a waste of time. Alright, so now we're going to do the transfer case assembly. This takes 0.45 quarts of that hypoid gear oil fluid. So we're going to go under and take off our fill bolt first to make sure that it can come off, so we don't drain fluid and not have any. Once we get our fill bolt loosened, we'll take off our drain bolt, drain our fluid, Both of these fill and drain bolts take a 20mm crush washer. I have new crush washers right there. I'll have links to all that in the video description. You can use a 3/8 inch ratchet, breaker bar, whatever you want. I'm going to use this Milwaukee stubby impact just like we did on the transmission. It works so well. I hope it continues to work well for me. So here we are, our transfer case. So here's our transmission drain bolt we just did. So behind that we have our transfer case fill at the side here. Also serves as a check bolt so we know when it's full. And then here's our drain. So the first thing we're going to do is loosen that bolt. I doubt if I'll be able, yeah, I can't get that in there. I'm not going to be able to reach that up in there. So nice idea, but not going to work on that one. So you're just using the 3/8 inch ratchet end is what you're using on these. Yeah, I'm gonna need a small extension. They don't make this one easy to reach. It's not the easiest to get to. Kind of gotta get in odd positions on this. So you basically just need to get your square end, or it'll go in, which is not as easy as it sounds sometimes. Got a lot of clearance issues here with this bolt and this over here. Got your exhaust system in the way. Okay, so I think we're reaching that. Okay, so I want to be pushing in a little bit right here so it doesn't come out of there and stay square while I'm trying to break it free here. It's hard to get leverage, but there it goes. So that's, you can see why I like using the Milwaukee stubby when I can, because just being under the car, it's, so now I'm gonna be able to do that by hand, but I'm not going to right now because it probably wouldn't spill, but it could. So I gotta have my pan ready, and this is a 1/2 inch. You can get a 1/2 inch or 3/8 on the Milwaukee. I bought the 1/2 inch because that's what the wheel lug nuts take, and I thought it'd be better to step down to a 3/8 than step up to a 1/2. So I have this little socket adapter that goes from 1/2 to 3/8. So I make sure I've got it in my loosening mode. Make sure I got it rotating counterclockwise. And I've put my torque down to the lowest setting because of how quick the transmission came out. There's 3 settings. So this doesn't work. I can just change the setting, but I thought we'd start here. Okay, so now I'm going to put it in neutral. I'm going to change my torque setting up to the second one and see how that goes. See if it'll bust it free on the second setting. Oh my. Okay, too much. So, oh boy. Yeah, it works. Need to get my pan under. Need to get my tool got soaked. That's not what I wanted. Alright, so it'll take me some practice. But it does work. Okay, so we're still just dripping. But remember, we took off this, the fill bolt, we loosened it, but we didn't remove it. So now that the fluid is out, I can remove this easily by hand without worrying about any spillage because the fluid's drained well below this. So now I got this off. So now both these, I'm going to want to make sure the crush washer came off with it. I'm going to want to take this old crush washer and set it aside so I don't confuse it. And I'm going to clean up I'm going to clean up this bolt. It's not, you know, dirty, it's just getting it wiped dry from fluid. And then I'm going to grab my new crush washer. And on crush washers, there's a flat machine side. And I'm going to want that up against my bolt like that. And so that's ready to go back on after we add fluid. And then this other one that we took out, there was the drain bolt. It's right here. Its crush washer is still on. And because we've torqued them properly, they're not like melted on and mangled on. We can actually take them off. Put our old ones there. We've already kind of wiped it, but I'll wipe it again now that I got the crush washer off. And then I'll put the new crush washer on. Flat machine side towards my bolt there. So now that that's down to barely a drip, I'm comfortable saying that's good. So I'm going to wipe that. Even though it's going to keep dripping, I'm just going to wipe it just so I know it's clean. And you can see the permanent marker on there that I rewrote, transfer drain, transfer case assembly. And so now I'm just gonna hand tighten this. Okay, it's not wanting to just easily go for me as much as I wish it would, but I don't feel it's cross-threaded. I think it just has a little bit of a rough spot in there. Not sure why that would be. So I may just need to take a wrench, and because I know that I'm in straight. So I'm gonna see if I put a socket on there, see if it looks like it's just needs a little help. Ideally, you wouldn't need a tool. But you can tell that it's not cross-threaded. It just needed a little help because that went very easily. Alright, so now I'm just going to wipe it again, and then I'm going to go ahead and torque down that drain to 33 foot-pounds. So I have my torque wrench already set to 33 foot-pounds. So again, just thinking about what's clockwise when I'm upside down. Make sure that I'm going the right direction. There we go. I got my click. So now I need to add fluid in this hole. Need to add my fluid in this fill hole where we took the bolt out until it starts to drip out. Once it starts to drip out, I know it's at the right level, and then I'll put the bolt back in. So I'm going to take my trash out, my two crush washers, and I'm going to go get my fluid. So one thing I want to point out when we did the automatic transmission fluid is the fluid really stinks, and that's just the way it is. It really reeks. So on this transfer case assembly fluid, it also smells a little bit. It's called Hypoid Gear Oil. This is the Honda HGO-1 GO5 SAE 75W-85. All this will be in the video description. Takes 0.45 quarts, but because we're entering it into the top and waiting for it to drip out, I put the rest of that bottle in that I had left over from a previous service, and so I'm just gonna get all I can in this. This is a big Mighty Vac fluid extractor. These are awesome. I have a smaller one I use for years. I love it too, but I found that I was having to refill it several times. So with this one, you know, this will hold 1.5 liters, and so anyway, you basically, this has an open and close function right here on this valve, so you want to make sure it's open when you're drawing up fluid. So it's basically just a big syringe, and you might need 2 people. But basically I'm gonna draw this up into here. I'm gonna have my wife help me so I don't spill this. So basically I'm holding this and I'm taking this and I'm drawing it up. So we're gonna do that off camera and come back to you in a second. Okay, so my wife held the picture and kind of made sure she was able to kind of angle the picture, you know, like this, so that we could get as much as we can. So I have a little more than I need for this, so that's what I want. So I'll be climbing under the car. I'll be putting this inside of that transfer case, and then I'll be plunging that. Now I will say the plunger doesn't go smooth all the time. You have to fight it just a little bit just because it's such a big awkward thing. But it really saves a lot of time over using a pump bottle, like a quart bottle. Especially when you're doing like the rear differential in the back is 2 quarts. So it's 4 times as much fluid as this. So I'm gonna have to do 2 of these large things on the rear diff, but 1 for this. So it's nice to be able to just crawl under the vehicle 1 time for this job with this and get it, instead of having to keep refilling whatever it is that I'm using. Alright, so I'm gonna turn my headlight on. I'll try to keep it out of the video. So I got it in there, and I want to try to keep it in there. I'll try to get my fluid catch under it just in case I spill. But I'm basically trying to keep it in there good while I use the plunger. And then I basically want to slow down when I get close to the 1/2 quart. So it's going in very nicely. And so now I'm going to slow down because it's going to leak out when I'm done. When I need to stop, it's going to leak. It's leaking. You see that? It's leaking. That means it's full. So I stop. Just let my pan catch all that. I'm going to go put this away and come back and torque down my bolt. Alright, so now we're going to put we're just cleaning things up while we let that drain, so we know that we have the right level. Just going to kind of clean some of this fluid up that drained off of here and dripped down this way. Wipe that surface where our crush washer is going to touch. And now it's by hand. I'm going to take my fill bolt has my new crush washer on it already. So by hand, I'm just going to try to, this is the one that, you know, it's a little awkward reaching up in there. You don't have a lot of clearance around it. You got this bolt in the way and the exhaust. This is something, it's a good reason to do this kind of stuff when the vehicle's not hot. You don't want to be touching exhaust pipes and stuff. They stay hot for a very long time and burn yourself really badly, so be careful. Alright, so that went on nice by hand all the way to the base. Same torque, 33 foot-pounds. We already got it set from when we did the other one. We can move our drain pan all the way out of the way because we're not going to be dripping anymore. Upside down, I want to think about what's tightening, what's loosening. So I'm going to need my 3-inch extension. Even though I don't have a lot of room there, I still need it just because to clear that bolt that's on there. So I'm going to put a 3-inch extension on my torque wrench. Get the square end in there. There we go. That's it. So we got that torqued down. The transfer case is done. Both bolts are torqued and it's got new fluid in it. Now that I did that, I'm just gonna give it another wipe with the rag because I can see where it's shiny from the fluid dripping down. I'm just trying to get it cleaned up. It's not too bad, but keep it clean. There we go. Transfer case is done. Alright, so if I wasn't videoing, I probably would have done the oil while I was under here, but I'm trying to kind of get these 30,000 mile maintenance items together on the video. So I went ahead and I moved my front floor jack from the tow hook back to where it's supposed to be. It's touching and it has some pressure right on the jack point in the front. So this is back where it's supposed to be. What I did with this back floor jack, and again, I am not recommending this as a jack point. It was so high up, especially because I'm off my garage floor now. I used this 4x4 wooden block to give me the height I needed on this 3-ton jack to this tow hook point on the tow hitch. And so this has some tension on it because you can't leave it on the floor jack point when you're doing the rear diff. You'll see that when we go under there. That's right where I'm going to be working. So that's the movement we did with the jack points. Alright, so this kind of gives you perspective from outside the vehicle where the rear differential is. So we came right under the center and jacked it up right here. So I told you that the jack point's in our way. So literally this is the jack point, and this hole is an access hole to come in from this way, put your socket extension through that hole, because right here on the other side of that hole is your rear differential fill bolt that we're going to loosen first to make sure we can loosen it. So so this piece of equipment above my head is the rear diff. The fill bolt's there. The drain bolt is right here coming in from the driver's side. Okay, so the fill bolt's in the back. The drain bolt is at the bottom of the driver's side. So my wife will do a good job of filming from wherever she can see, but I want to show you a close-up so you don't question how to do this job. Okay, so coming in this way, you're gonna have, forgive me for video, I can't see what I'm doing, but you're gonna have this hole right here where my extension goes. And then on the other side of that, I've labeled mine for you, rear differential fill bolt. So the socket extension comes through this hole, and so you can get it on your rear differential fill bolt, okay? And that's going to have a 20mm crush washer on it. So this whole thing right here is your rear differential. So then on your what would be your driver's side, you can see I've labeled your rear diff drain bolt right here. So that's gonna drain towards your driver's side, and it looks like that, the 3/8 inch socket. So when we say we're draining, we're talking about this one, and when we're talking about filling, we're talking about the other one. So now that you have your bearing straight, sorry about the awkward video, you'll be able to tell what we're seeing and what we're talking about, even if you don't have a good shot of it at the moment. Alright, so again, this one is a knuckle breaker. You're going to want, if you're using a breaker bar or a ratchet, you're going to want padded gloves where it pads the back of your hand and your knuckles. I'll put links in the description for good gloves like that. If you have a small breaker bar, you're probably going to want a pipe to get some more torque, because they set over time and they really torque down. So I'm going to try this stubby on this and see how it does. It's on the 2 setting that worked for the transfer case. I've got it set to loosen. I've got a 9-inch extension. That's probably way too long. Maybe I need a, probably try a 6-inch extension. Let me switch that out. Alright, we're going to try a 6-inch extension. That's going to work. So I just go in there, feel around, get it on the bolt. Alright, that worked. Alright, so I just want it loosened. Boy, that's really helpful. I have struggled. It's hard to get your body, contorted in the right way to get to these. So that's from doing them many times. So I'm looking for my 3-inch. Well, I can stick with the 6-inch because of how this drain bolt is kind of recessed. The 6-inch extension is probably still going to be my best bet. So as I'm getting used to using this stubby impact to loosen, you know, my goal is to just loosen it and then swap over to my other one to actually remove it. But as if you watch my transfer case one, you'll know that I wasn't able to control it and I did too much. Okay, so 6 inches is too long because I start hitting other things. So I'm done with the 6-inch until we put that one back. So I got a 3-inch ready. So 3-inch extension. Again, I got the stubby set at a 2, but that's still too long. Okay. So I don't think I'll be able to use any. I may not be able to use it. So we'll see if we can get it on there. And I can't. I am not going to be able to. Not going to be able to use it. Okay, well, oh well. I'm going to start with a 3/8 inch extendable ratchet. Not sure I'm going to be able to get the torque I need from it. Alright, so okay, so oh boy, it's coming. So I need to get my stuff. So I did make a change last time I did this, and instead of going 35 foot-pounds like it says, because they're so difficult, I went down to like 32. That made a difference. I was able to break that free fairly easily. The easiest I've ever done on these. So just so you know, the Honda spec is 35. If you want to stick with that, but if you want to go to like 32 or something, it may really help you get it off there. So now to keep from spilling on myself, I'm going to switch over to this a right angle ratchet and get my drain in place. Get this on there if I can. Alright. Okay. And then that way it allows me to get out of the way while that drains. Now while that's draining, we can do a couple things. There's about 2 quarts in there, so it's going to take it just a little bit, not very long. It's draining nice and easy. It looks really clean. It looks very clean. That's a good sign. So let me come out in the light and show you this. So this drain bolt has a magnet. So I change these every 15,000 miles, this rear differential fluid. And so you're going to get most of your break-in in the first 15 and 30,000 miles. You're going to get it. So this drain bolt, this part is a magnet, okay? And it looks very clean. The cleanest it's ever looked, which makes sense because it's broken in fully. So you're going to see some metal shavings though when I wipe it on this clean rag, but not hardly any. Look at that. That is amazing. So here's what I'm going to do. This is what I do on my Hondas, and you can decide what you want. So I do the transmission every 30,000. I do the transfer case every 30,000. I do the rear diff every 15,000 until now. Now this is my 60,000 mile maintenance. You can see how clean the fluid is coming out. You can see that my magnet had virtually nothing on it. So starting now, I'm only going to do this every 30,000 miles to line up with the other 30,000 mile maintenance and, you know, transmission related, drivetrain related maintenance. So I'm going to go 30,000 miles from now on and feel good about it because of what we see here. So this is my old crush washer. I want to take that off and dispose of it. This is an 18 millimeter crush washer. The fill bolt is a larger 20 millimeter crush washer. So that's my old one I'm going to set aside. I'm going to get my new one ready and set on here. And I'm also going to, by hand, or I might need a wrench still, but I'm going to go ahead and take off the fill bolt. It's going to be my smaller of the two because one of them's a 20. This is an 18. Just look at my, which one's my flat machine side to put closest to my bolt like that. So I'm gonna just kind of set this ready to go, and then I think I'm going to adjust my torque wrench. I had it at 35. I want to go back down to 32 because I liked how that came off. Alright, so now I'm just going to reach up here on this fill bolt just by hand. Shouldn't leak anything out because it's empty now. Alright, so let's take my rag, wipe it off. See it, you only have a magnet on the drain, not on the fill. There's my old crush washer. I'll set it out there with the other one. Don't want to get my new and old mixed up. Just wipe that off real good. Take my new crush washer, put it on so it's ready when we're done. That'll be the last step because we gotta put fluid in first on that one. So now that that's ready, now we're gonna put the drain bolt back on and torque it down. So I'm gonna go ahead, it's down to barely a drip. I'm just gonna take my rag, just kind of clean off the surface where I'm going. I know it's going to keep dripping until I put the bolt in, but I'm just cleaning the area. Then I'm going to, by hand, just kind of stick this back in there. Just kind of get it started here. Okay, so just by hand, get that up against the base. Once you do that, it stops dripping, so you can now wipe it clean. It's gonna stay clean. Just get all that clean as you can. Then we'll grab my torque wrench. Again, the Honda spec is 35. I'm gonna do it to 32. You do what you want to do. Okay, underneath, upside down the vehicle, make sure you know what's clockwise. That's it. Doesn't take much, but boy, you'd be surprised how tight they get over a 15,000 mile interval or 30,000 mile interval to get off. Okay, so now we have an empty rear diff with a new drain bolt and crush washer torqued down. So now we're going to put our fluid in up here. Alright, so the rear differential fluid is this Honda dual pump fluid tube. Takes 1.92 quarts. And the idea is the same as a transfer case, where we fill fluid in that fill bolt until it starts to leak out. Then we know it's full. Then we put our bolt back on. So the problem is, by the time you dump 2 quarts into a pitcher or use a quart pump right on your bottle, you can buy those, but you got to pump it like over 100 times to get it in there. It's a real pain. So that's why I use the syringe for the Mighty Vac fluid extractor. You're going to have some fluid loss. You're going to have some fluid that's kind of stuck in the tube and all that. And so when you buy 2 quarts, you're not going to actually get that satisfaction of seeing the drip. You're going to put it all in there, and it's not going to drip out, and you're out of fluid, and you're like, man, is there enough in there? Yes, there is. If you didn't spill it, there's enough. You could feel comfortable and confident buying 2 quarts, putting it in there, recognizing you're not going to get the drip. You're so close to getting the drip, it's going to be negligible. So you are okay to just buy 2 quarts and put those in. I decided, since I have 2 vehicles, the Pilot, the Ridgeline, that take the same thing, I went ahead this time and bought a 3rd quart just so I could get that drip. So I've got more than 2 quarts in here. I didn't empty out this 3rd. I just put a 1/10 of it or so in there. So now I'm going to use this Mighty Vac fluid, and the 2 quarts is going to require me to do 2 of these. So even though this thing looks gigantic, it's actually only 1.5 liters, which is less than the 1.92 quarts. So basically I make sure my valve is open, and I basically just draw it up like a syringe. And it's not that easy. Like I wish I could just pull on this thing and it would just come up there, but it's not water you're dealing with. It's a heavier fluid, so you just gotta kind of be patient. Okay, so it's going to take 1+, right? So now I've got this one, so I know this whole thing's going to go in, and I'm not going to lose anything. So I'm going to use this valve here. Got a little twist valve on it. I'm going to put links. This fluid extractor is worth it. This pitcher is worth it. If you watch my videos, I use these for everything. The pitchers, the fluid extractors I only need for these 30,000 mile maintenance items, or 15, the rear diff and the transaxle. It's the only thing I need them for, but they're nice to have. Alright, so I'm going to hold this in a manner where it doesn't drip out. So hold this above here. I got the valve closed, so I got to remember that. I'm going to crawl under the car. I'm going to put all this in at a pretty good speed because I know it's going to hold it all. Then I'm going to come back and get some more. So I'm gonna kind of move that back closer to me. I gotta put this through here, get it into that. It's already starting to leak out. Okay, I got it in there solid. I need to remember that I shut this valve, so I need to twist it open. This is such a huge syringe to deal with. Alright, so I'm going to put some pressure on that while I'm squirting it in there. And the awkwardness is why I wanted to buy a 3rd quart, just because it's hard to tell how much you're spilling. So I thought, well, this way, I can just do it till it starts to drip, and I'll know that I got it. Whereas like the transmission fluid, I don't spill a drop of that. I'm just putting it in with a funnel from the top, so I'm comfortable going to 3.7 on that one without using the check bolt method. Alright, so that's going to be all I get out of this one. And because it's clean, anything I don't use on this one I'm going to put back in that bottle. Save it for the next one. So my valve is open, so I should be able to get my wife to kind of tilt this pitcher for me. Yeah, we're going to do this off camera because we're going to have to tilt the pitcher like this to get all of it. So I'm just going to do the same thing, Gonna fill it up with what I got left. We'll do that off camera real quick. Alright, we got this much in, our second attempt here. So this one, I'm gonna have to go slower because I know I got more than I need. That's the idea. So I'll get my light on. It's hard to do everything. Alright, so now I got that in there good. My valve I left open the whole time, so I don't have to worry about that again. Kind of trying to get some good hold on that. Okay, now. Okay. It did drip on me, but that's because it was spillage. So I'm going to keep going, because once it starts dripping for the right reason, it's not going to stop. Alright, so we're going in. Okay, now we got a steady drip. So now I'm fully confident we got a full differential, and the way that bolt is on the side, it ensures that you will not overfill it. So we're just gonna let that excess drip. Alright, so we're down to, you know, you don't really have to wait because it's a very slow drip kind of thing. So again, not going to worry about cleaning all this up on the bottom. That'd be a waste of time because it's dripping. So I'm just going to wipe the surface of where the bolt's actually going and my crush washer's going to touch. And then I'm going to grab my bolt. I'll go ahead and use the extension so I can get it in there. But I am going to do it by hand, just using this. So I can see I got my new crush washer on. I want to go in straight, go in by hand till I contact the base. Once I contact the base, I just got to give it a little twist, and that will allow me to clean up, because that's all I need to get it to stop dripping. So now I'm not wasting my time to start cleaning up the mess that it made when it drips. Right below this fill bolt, the Honda did stamp in this DPSF, which is the name of this fluid, the dual pump fluid 2. So we got the rear differential fill bolt tightened by hand, and we got it all cleaned up. So now we're going to put our torque wrench on. Remember, Honda spec is 35 foot-pounds. I'm going to go 32 on this one, just because of experience with trying to get them off. Alright, so waiting for the click. Alright, there we go. So this job is done. Alright, so now that we're done, I'm just putting the rear jack pad back on the proper lifting point and getting some tension on it so that part of the weight of the vehicle is on it, but it's being supported by the jack stands. So I can get rid of this wooden block, which I don't like using. Alright, so now we're going to rotate the tires, and even if we weren't, I like taking this tire off so I can access the oil filter easier. Alright, so we're going to use our impact gun. Remember, we did not loosen these lug nuts. This is the wheel key for the locking lug nut. I'm going to start with that one. Alright, so we got this tire off. We're just going to do this for now and finish the oil change the oil, and then I'll resume with the tire rotation. So on this vehicle, the front wheels go to the back on the same side, and the back crisscross to the front on the opposite side. So this tire ends up here, that tire ends up being my front tire on my driver's side. My front tire on my driver's side goes to the back on the driver's side, and the back tire on the driver's side crisscrosses and will go here. So front to back same side, back to front opposite side. So we'll finish the tire rotation later. So our next job will be to change our oil filter, which is right here. You can see how easy this is to get to with this wheel removed, and you can tell how close it is to this crossbar. So I have two things that I'll show you that I do to make this job a little easier. So the first is that I use Glad Press and Seal to protect that crossbar from excessive oil and such. So I just take a piece about like that, and I just kind of get down in here, just kind of shoving it in this gap that I've got right here. So just kind of cover that bar with this press and seal, wrap it around that bar like that. We're gonna get the other thing I do, because of the low clearance here in between the bar, bottom of that filter, is I choose to use a pliers style oil filter wrench for this vehicle, like this. And the reason is I don't have to get anything under it. I can just grab it from the sides. Alright, so now we're getting ready to do our oil change. We have 5.7 quarts of this. This is a 5-quart jug, so we had some left over plus a new one. So we use these pitchers so that we can measure out. This has 1.7, this has 4, for a total of 5.7 quarts. Then we take our new oil filter, just dip just a little bit of clean oil, and you can use a finger. I usually have gloves on, but I've went through all 3 pairs of my gloves today. So main thing, we're just covering this rubber seal on the oil filter with fresh oil. Then we're going to pre-fill our oil filter. You don't have to do this. I choose to. You can do what you want. It just on startup gives a little more oil quicker into the system to protect internal components, but you're talking about a fraction of a second. So I don't fill it up to the point where it's going to spill, but put a little bit of oil in there to help that out. So I've got my new oil filter. I have these sockets are going to be for the oil, so I'm going to wait on those. 14mm crush washer and my 17mm sockets for my oil drain plug. So for right now, I'm just going to use this box to keep this oil filter from tipping over, and going to grab one of these containers that I use to take the filter to recycle. So I have that with me. Normally I would just use disposable gloves. It's just my hands are sweaty. I started off with 3 pair, but we've done so much today. I've done a bunch of fluids today, so I got them all dirty. Alright, so let's go take this out to the vehicle. Okay. So here's our oil filter. We got our oil filter pliers. I'm going to start by rotating that counterclockwise to loosen. It's on there good. Never had it kind of stick that much before. I never use tools to tighten, so I put that on there so I know it was hand tightened. There, I got it to move. Okay, it's very loose. I take my tool out to keep it clean. There's no point in dripping it. See how I dented the filter? That's fine. It's already used up, so I'm not worried about damaging it with the pliers. So now, when I loosen it, it's going to drip. So I want to do this part slowly and just kind of let that oil at the top drip down. Make sure I get my pan. That's why I use the Glad Press and Seal. Spin it a little more. Okay, so it's pretty much that's the mess that you're gonna get. So now normally I would have on disposable gloves. It's gonna use this shop rag, take that off all the way. Okay, now I'm just going to take that filter and dump it down in my drain pan, let it kind of empty out there. Okay, so I can tell by looking at the clean base. Always make sure that black rubber ring stayed on your old filter, and it did. I'm just going to give it, I'm going to eventually put that filter in this container for recycle, but for right now I'm just going to give it time to drain whatever's going to drain. And while we're waiting on that, I'm going to take my rag, just kind of wipe off this mating surface here where our new filter's going to go. I'm going to kind of get up in that groove. Get that as clean as I can. Should look brand new, really. And it does. Okay, so there's that. And then, because you're still going to get drips out of there, I'm going to leave my Glad Press and Seal in place until I get this on. So. Okay, so once you get it lined up, you just spin it on until it contacts the base. Alright, so now it's contacted the base, but it's not tight. So I'm just kind of drying the oil off my hand. Want to get a good grip on it and turn it by hand. And that's it. So now that I got that on there, I'm going to grab this press and seal, just kind of gently pull it away, put it down into the pan here, and you'll see that it did its job in keeping all this area clean. You might have a drip or something, and that's it. Now I do see a few drips back here on the oil pan that went behind from when the filter spins. It kind of gets a little bit on the oil pan, but that was a very minor, so that's a very clean job. So now this old oil filter has had plenty of time to gravity. Whatever's going to come out has come out. So I'm just going to tip it back up this way. I'm going to set it in there, put the lid on, take that to recycle when I'm done today. Set that aside. So now our oil filter is done. Alright, so orientation wise, there's our oil filter. So now we're getting to our oil drain bolt with the 17mm socket on my 3/8 inch extension, so I can get a little bit of torque. It's torqued to 30 foot-pounds, so I'm gonna need a little bit to break it free is all I'm trying to do. Okay, it's broke free. So now, this is an optional tool you can buy. I'll put it in the description. It's a 17mm magnetic socket. There's a magnet right here so that when I get this broke free, it won't fall in the oil pan. So I got my pan ready to catch it. I need to get my socket on it first. It's not on there all the way. Alright. So now I get my oil pan under. You can certainly just use a regular ratchet to get that off. This way it just kind of keeps me out of the oil. So now while that's draining, let's clean up our little bolt right here. Also, last time I did this oil change, I put this aftermarket plug on with a little magnet, but it really doesn't catch much of anything, and it doesn't start as easy on the threads. So I'm gonna switch back to my original Honda drain plug and put my new washer on it. We got our bolt ready to go. I could do it now, but it's dripping pretty steady. I'm gonna go ahead and continue with the tire rotation for a minute and come back to finish up the oil change, just to give it a little more time to drip. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and take this wheel off. There's our locking key. Just want to always make sure we're rotating in the counterclockwise position. So this is going to crisscross to the front tire on the driver's side. Okay. So when I rotate, I want to check the tread depth. That's good. I want to just look at the inside of the tire and make sure there's no damage. See if I have any damage to the treads or any big rock stuck in there or anything. So I'm just going to roll this over. Alright, so we let this drip for a little bit. It's down to just a very slow drip. So I'm just going to kind of wipe the surface. I know it's going to keep dripping. It's going to get oily again, but I'm just wanted to give it one wipe before I put my new bolt on there, and then I'll clean it up after I get it to stop dripping. So we have our new bolt ready with our new crush washer, and so I just want to start that by hand. Just want to get it up there, get it lined up. So just by hand till it contacts the base. And then I just kind of give it a turn the best I can with my hand. That'll be enough to get the oil to stop dripping. So now I can take a moment, clean anything up that dripped. Okay, so I use my regular 17mm socket on my torque wrench that's set to 30 foot-pounds. Make sure I got it in a tightening position on my ratchet. Just try to get that socket on there. There it is. Okay, that's it. Alright, so we got our 5.7 quarts of oil ready. We have this nice funnel that just fits perfect. I'll put links in the description. It's on the pricey side, but I really like it, and the handle fits perfect, kind of holding it in place. I'll go ahead and just keep a hand on it. Don't pour it too fast. So this pitcher has 4 quarts in it, and the other one has 1.7. minus whatever we pre-filled our oil filter with, and kind of get my headlight down there to see where the funnel's going into the vehicle, just to keep an eye on it, make sure the oil's not backing up and overflowing and causing a mess, making sure all the oil gets in there. Okay, let me go get the other one. Alright, one little drop right here. So now I'm going to want to give it a second to drain down in there. I'm going to push my dipstick back in all the way. Going to put my rag down here so when I lift that up I can grab it, not let it drip in the engine. And then I've already wiped and cleaned this fill cap. I'm just going to kind of wipe the actual area right there. Put this back on. Just kind of snug that up. That oil change is done. Of course you can run it, check the level. I just know that this takes 5.7. I've done it so many times, I'm confident in that. So the oil change is done. Oh my, that was like actually stuck for a second. You can tell where I've taken this copper anti-seize and I kind of painted it in between the lug nuts. Well, that's been on there for 30,000 miles, and I noticed that one just barely sticking for the first time. So I'm just going to take some of this copper anti-seize brake lube, and really, it's really messy. But basically it prevents your wheels from sticking to the hub. And I just want to put a little bit on there. I'm not putting it on the threads, I'm just putting it where you see me. I also like to look at my brakes. The way I drive, my brakes last a long time. Pads are in good shape. Alright, so I want to snug it up with this, not torque it down like a impact. I'm just more using it as a drill, and then I'll kind of give it a little extra at the end so that the wheel is on there where it won't move when we set it down. But then I'll use a torque wrench on the ground to get it to the 94 foot-pounds. So right now we're just getting it on. So we always give them like 3 or 4 turns by hand so you don't cross thread. Okay. So now we'll just kind of use this. Okay, so we just barely get them going, and now we're gonna okay, so that has it where it's not really moving, and then when we get it on the ground, we'll use a torque wrench. Okay, so our wheels are not torqued down yet, but they're safe to put the vehicle down. So we'll be switching over to our torque wrench. So we're going to get it off of jack stands right now. Alright, so the last thing we have left to do other than resetting the maintenance minder is to torque down the lug nuts on the wheels after our tire rotation. So we're going to take it off of jack stands now. So we're going to do that in reverse order. So I'm going to start in the back, and I'm only going to pump this up a couple times. Should be all that's needed. So all I really need to do is confirm that I'm on my jack point. I'm going to give it about 3 pumps, 4, see if I can release these, if that's enough to release these right here. And it is. Just want to get those out of my way. Just don't trip over those. Remember where you put them. I don't like taking the time to put those away right now because it's not as safe as I would like. So I would like to get this down first. So I'm doing the handle counterclockwise, letting the back down. Alright, the back is down. I'm going to take my wheel chocks. I'm going to put them behind my back tires on both sides for safety, and the emergency brake is also set. Alright, so now I'm going to do the same thing in the front. I want to make sure first that my jack is in the right place. So since the back came down, the front came up. So my floor jack is no longer touching the jack point, so I need to get back under there. I need to make sure it's where it needs to be. Okay. So now again, just going to pump it up about 4 times. Should be enough to release these. If you pull up and it doesn't do that, it means you need to get it a little bit higher. So you gotta get both sides out. Again, now I want to go ahead and get this down. Okay. So now that I have it safely on the ground, now I can take a moment to clean my work area. So now that we have the truck back on the ground, now we're going to torque these down to 94 foot-pounds. So we just use our torque wrench and go till we hear a click. So we're just going to do that all the way around. Alright, for this vehicle, all 4 tires get inflated to 35 psi, so I won't show that on camera, but that's part of a tire rotation. So I will inflate all the tires to 35 psi. Okay, so we're going to reset our maintenance minder. I'm going to tap the start button but not start it, and just kind of go into this accessory mode. Let this infotainment kind of start up. Okay, so I hit the button once and then it's saying accessory mode, so I'm going to hit it again. Still not started, but it puts it in accessory mode. And then it'll when I hit settings, it'll have the vehicle show, where if you don't do that, vehicle will be grayed out. So I'm going to put vehicle, and I'm going to go down with this arrow to maintenance info. Maintenance info. Oil life 50%. I'm going to hit reset. Would you like to reset maintenance information? Reset. Now we did everything else, but I don't think it's going to show it because it probably didn't think it was due. Okay, so it's not going to let me reset all the other stuff we did, but that's why, you know, I keep my own record of it. So that's how you reset it. I'm going to go ahead and start the vehicle. So first of all, there's the mileage, 59,789. This is our 60,000 mile service. So I'm going to let that run and check air in my tires while I let it run. And then after I get all the tires to 35 psi, I'll shut it off, let it sit for 10 minutes, and then I'll check my oil dipstick to make sure that's done. And that's everything. So I hope, I'm making sure my light's not off. I hope that's been helpful, and I appreciate you watching. Please check the video description. It'll be very helpful information for you. And if you purchase anything there with the Amazon links, I appreciate you supporting the channel. It doesn't cost you anything, but it gives me a small commission. Thank you for watching.